So now let's put the whole model together in order to see macroeconomic equilibrium and to make predictions about policy in the macroeconomy. So these are the three curves that we have developed, all in the same diagram now. The long-run aggregate supply, which is a straight line and depends on the inputs of production, not on the price level. The short-run aggregate supply, which is upward sloping in the short term, and the downward sloping aggregate demand curve. We usually start with a point of equilibrium along the long-run aggregate supply curve at what we call full employment. So this is Q0. Now let's say that we have a shift in one of the curve. Let's say we have some kind of shock in supply that shifted the supply curve to the left. Now notice that in the short term, we have to go with the short-run curve, the short-run aggregate supply, and the aggregate demand curve, and the intersection of those two, which is down here. So output is going to fall from full employment from Q0 to Q1. Not only that, but prices are going to increase from P0 to P1. So the result of a shock in supply is pretty bad for the economy because we have inflation along with unemployment. This right here is unemployment. So one of the ways in which the economy could go back to full employment could be through the aggregate demand. If the government passes some kind of relief package, it could push the aggregate demand curve to the right, bringing the economy back to full employment, but at the expense of increasing prices even more. So this is very similar to what happened in the US in the last 2 years. As we know, the pandemic caused a lockdown in March of 2020. That sent the economy directly into a huge recession, but a very short-lived recession that lasted until about the lockdowns went off, which is about June of that year. Now, the economy was already almost back into full employment, probably even more than full employment when everyone returned to work. But at that point, the Congress approved the first stimulus check of $1,200. This tells you a little bit of the problems with macroeconomic policy is that the government takes time in order to approve any kind of relief. And in that time that it takes the Congress to approve that relief, the economy could have actually gone back to full employment. And this is what many economists think happened in the US in 2020. Now, in the first quarter of 2021, the Congress approved another stimulus check, even though the economy seems to have been going back to the original level before pandemic. And then in March of 2021, the Congress approved another stimulus package of $1,400, even though, again, the economy was already producing at full employment. So if we wanted to model this, again, in the macroeconomic model of aggregate demand, aggregate supply, we'll do very similar to what we did before. The pandemic caused a supply shock in which it sent all of the production into lockdown. The government prohibited the production of many goods. So that's a shock in supply. In the short run, the aggregate supply curve went to the left. That created unemployment and sent the economy into recession. And that's the difference between Q0 and Q1. And that should have produced some kind of inflation from P0 to P1. Now, the government reacted to that by trying to bring the economy back to full employment by shifting the aggregate demand to the right, by sending all of the stimulus checks to people. Now, the result of that should have been even further increases to the prices. Notice that as the data suggested, when the government sent those checks, the economy was almost at full employment. So really what happened here is that it's probably that the government overshot the aggregate demand and it would shift it beyond full employment, putting additional pressure on the price from P2 to P3. All of this curve changing at different levels, but the main variable that's changing here dramatically is the price level. We have 3 different changes, 1, 2, and 3, all of them putting an upward pressure on the price in the macroeconomy. We should have expected a dramatic increase in prices as a result of all of this that was happening in the economy, and that is exactly what we've seen. This is the reason that we have so dramatic inflation in the economy, more than we have had for the last 40 years, in average about 9% per year, but in many sectors like gas, the increase have been dramatically more, sometimes 50%. Before we answer the initial question, which is what are the policies that Biden has suggested are going to work within the context of aggregate demand, aggregate supply, let's do a little practice so you can start getting acquainted with the model.